Welcome everyone to another very special XpoNorth digital short because we have another sector specialist here today. I'm so excited to invite Tim to do an interview. Hi, Tim.
Hello, Jessica. Lovely to see you again.
So nice to see you too, and your phenomenal bookshelf, Tim. Tim is an author, a sector specialist for XpoNorth. Can you tell us a little bit, not only about what's on your shelf, but who you are and what you do?
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for inviting me, Jessica. Lovely to have the opportunity. My name's Tim Wright. I work for a company called Twintangibles, which is a management consultancy that specializes in the crowd economy. So our job is to help organizations find the opportunities that exist in the crowd economy. So finding value external to the business by tapping into the crowd. And that can involve all sorts of things from crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and open innovation, all that kind of stuff. And I have recently published a new book, which I will wave at you.
Yeah, let's see the cover.
Shamelessly, here's the new book, just out, Crowd Assets, Crowdfunding for Policymakers. So in essence, it's a set of frameworks that we developed with the European Commission to help them think about how they could integrate crowdfunding into some of their work. And we have wrapped those frameworks up with a whole series of case studies from around the world on how policymakers have used crowd engagement and crowdfunding to advance their policy agendas. And now it's out in the book.
Tim, that's awesome. Can we get it online?
Sure, you can.
Great.
It's available on Amazon and all good bookshops.
That's fantastic. So we'll include some links actually below. And we're really very lucky to have your expertise, especially at this time, because I know a lot of the people and clients and artists that XpoNorth work for are not only severely hit by COVID, but they're looking to transition their work perhaps online. And there are a lot of things we could go into in our very short interview about crowdfunding. But one thing that keeps on coming back that you've mentioned before, Tim, that I'd love to dive into is this idea of persistence and success, maybe tied with persistence with crowdfunding. Can you tell us a little bit about
Sure, and you're absolutely right that in the circumstances that we're in, we're seeing a real uptick in people's interest in engaging with the crowd in various different ways, be it crowdfunding or patronage models and these types of extended engagements. But there's a common misconception that actually these processes are actually very straightforward and easy to do. It's just a case of, oh, if I just put my fabulous crowdfunding project onto one of these platforms, it will automatically succeed. And unfortunately, that isn't the case in most instances. About 70% of crowdfunding campaigns, for example, fail. They don't reach their objectives. And this has been a consistent statistic for the last sort of 10 or 15 years of crowdfunding. And it stems from a number of key misconceptions, I think. One is that there's no need for preparation, that these things just, you can just launch it tomorrow and it will be fine. But in truth, most crowdfunding campaigns are won and lost before they've actually started. It's all in the preparation. There's a lot of effort and work goes into it.
Wow, can I just highlight that, are won and lost before they even started? I think that's just something for a lot of folks to just let sink in for a second. What are some ways to not have that happen? So as you're prepping, what are some key things that you recommend folks do to set themselves up properly before they go online?
Key thing first up, I would say for almost all crowdfunding campaigns, is check that your messaging is right, that it resonates. People that are very passionate about something tend to, as most people are, about the topic of their crowdfunding project, whatever it is, if it's a film or if it's recording a new album or whatever it is that they're funding for, they are very invested in it and they believe in it and they're very passionate about it. But that often means that they're not very good at talking about it. They're not very good at listening to other people's opinions of it. They got so much additional contextual information that their messaging can sometimes be not very focused, not very effective. And so you have an opportunity prior to launching a campaign to check whether your messaging is understood. And you can do this kind of stuff by just pitching to people, preferably people that don't know you, because they might give you some the bad news. But if you've got kind of email addresses, you've got maybe a bank of people that you exchange emails with, you have some kind of monthly newsletter or something like that, check this stuff out. Try it with people to make sure people understand. It's very common to get a pitch from people that are thinking about a crowdfunding campaign. You meet with them and say, give me a pitch. You got 2 minutes to give us a pitch, which is a typical length of a crowdfunding video. Give me your pitch, and at the end of it you'll go, well, what was that all about? I don't understand. What you're doing? What for how much, over what time? I don't get it. And the common response I get from people that have done that pitch is, well, everybody else in the office thinks it's fantastic. And I'm going, yeah, but everybody else in the office has got a different set of information to that huge crowd of people out there that you're going to be reaching out to. Yeah. So getting the messaging right is really important, and do that before your campaign starts. Warm people up and try and build that that base of crowd that you can start off with. So we talk a lot, if you don't mind me going on about this, we talk a lot about social and relationship capital. Okay, so if you're thinking about crowdfunding, one of the things we would ask you to do if you're preparing for a campaign was to undertake an audit of what you've got to hand to run a crowdfunding campaign. Now that might be assets, it might be skills, it might be tools and resources, but one of the most important assets that you will have is social and relationship capital. So, and that is two dimensions, if you will, of the same thing. So social capital is an expression of the absolute number of people and organizations that you can get your message in front of. So the absolute number. Relationship capital is an expression of how deep is the relationship that you have with the different individuals and groups of individuals within that. And in a crowdfunding campaign, you want to expand both of those things. You want more people, so your social capital increases, and you want to deepen the relationship with as many of them as you possibly can, and with the relationship capital. And the reason is a simple one. Crowdfunding and crowd engagement it's a numbers game. And ultimately, only a certain proportion of people that you put your campaign message in front of will convert into backers of your campaign.
Sure.
So, and the likelihood of people converting into a backer is a function of how deep the relationship is that you have with them. The deeper the relationship, the more likely that they will turn into a backer. So the more people that you can reach out to, and the deeper the relationship that you have with them, the greater your chances of success.
Tim, may I ask, that's really interesting, because I know there are different ways to deepen a relationship online. So some people, I know Amanda Palmer is a really key example of someone who runs very successful crowdfunding, especially during COVID, for her art. She had spent a long time building up followers online before transitioning. So it's a little different trying to build a crowd while running a campaign. Yeah. And for her, it's about vulnerability. She really opens up and it deepens that relationship for other makers. So if you are a knitter and you don't feel like letting out all your personal life online, you might deepen maybe the insight you're giving to the practice of knitting that you're doing. And maybe that creates a relationship. I really want to know from your opinion and what you're seeing, because you work with so many different crowd funds and also different from individuals to organizations. I'm sure that's a different strategy. Are people tired? Is there giving fatigue at this time of COVID online? Are you seeing that? Or do you think people are actually engaging more online because we don't have other ways of communicating with people?
Yeah, I've not seen any evidence of giving fatigue. In fact, I think at the moment there is a certain sense, a collective that is probably not there in other at other times. But I think it probably is, and I have no evidence, hard evidence of this, is more anecdotal than anything. But I think there may be a shift in emphasis of where people are wanting to put their crowdfunding funding, if you see what I mean. So there will be support for community engagement and community support. I think there's probably less appetite for perhaps entrepreneurial startups, unless you can make a pitch that I've lost my job. Here's my new, that the kind of emotional pitch. Here's my new opportunity. But I've got no real evidence to suggest that there's a downtick in this. In fact, some of the platforms are reporting extremely high levels of activity. Yeah, I'm not sure that there's much fatigue. I get a sense that we are getting, maybe this experience has given us a sense of our integration to a community, and that we are somehow less isolated. But also, I suppose there's the opportunity that, given we're doing so much stuff online now, be it working from home or whatever it is, the ability to actually get a campaign in front of a crowd may be higher because people are simply spending more time online.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And for another misconception that I want to talk about, which kind of leads into persistence, I know every crowdfunding campaign is different, but from what you've seen, what is an average time scale it takes for people to really build up that depth of a relationship and the numbers they need in order to run a successful campaign? How long does that take?
That's a terrific question, but it's also a very hard one to answer because it's different for all organizations. One thing that we would do in that audit phase that I was talking about, what you can do is, if you're running a crowdfunding campaign, you can look at campaigns that are reasonably similar to yours. So similar in terms of the sector or the type of thing that they're campaigning for, similar in terms of the quantum or size of raise that they're doing. And you can take examples from crowdfunding platforms, because most of the data is out there, freely available. You can just get it, and you get a sense of what an average backer will give to a campaign. So you take a successful campaign, the total they raise, the number of backers that they've got, divide the two, and you've got a sense of what an average contribution is. You can then apply that to your campaign and get a sense of the number of backers that you're going to need, and then do some simple multiples of saying, well, look, if 5% of the people that I get this in front of back me, will I reach my target? And how many does that look like? And what does 5% of my social capital look like? So you can get a sense of where you might be. You can get very overambitious. So 5% conversion is not going to happen. But in terms of how long it takes to build up that sort of relationship, well, you can imagine if it's a huge conversion number that you've got to achieve with a very large number of people, and you have no social relationship capital to start off with, I would suggest you're not in a good place to begin with, and you've got to spend time building your social capital. Sometimes it's a case of people needing to warm their social and relationship capital up, do a little bit, get their act together a little bit on sending out those newsletters, which have become maybe more intermittent and episodic. You need to be a bit more disciplined in these things. So, but it would vary enormously between the different types of crowdfunding, because of course you've got 4 types of crowdfunding: donation, reward, debt, and equity. And they each have slightly different dynamics. Typically the reward side of things, the conversion rates that you would need to achieve there would be, 5% would be a lot to achieve. So if you're looking for, let's say, £10,000, and your average backer is, gives you £10, you got to get 1,000 people convert, and if that's 2% of your social and relationship capital, how many people are you going to have to get it in front of? It's a lot. So it varies enormously. Some people are very good at this, and there are things that you can do in order to expand that. So in terms of building a communication strategy ahead of a crowdfunding campaign for, let's say, 90 days, there's all sorts of stuff that you can do, and targeting communicators, influencers, building the retention rates on your existing friends and followers. These are all activities that you can undertake very effectively to build that social and relationship capital ahead of a campaign.
Tim, what's really helpful about this is that each stage of the process, it sounds like there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's not just as easy as putting your stuff online. And I know that's very basic, but there's so many people who really deserve a good crowd campaign for their work. They're doing great work, whether they're visual artists or musicians, especially during this time. And there is an audience out there that's hungry for art. We can't get to the museums or concerts as easily. So really, I'm very passionate about people sticking with it and doing the work that's needed to go forward. So hearing bits of that process, I really wish we could go into it all today. We might have to do a part 2 and gather some people's questions so that we can dive into those nitty-gritty parts of the process.
But persistence, you're right. Persistence is key. Yeah. If you have to stick with this, you cannot just put it onto a platform and just forget about it. You have to keep going. And people run unsuccessful crowd funds and then learn from that and come back and run another one, and next time successful. Famously, I think the Coolest Cooler failed about 7 times before it raised about $13 million. So I mean, you know, persistence pays. You have to stick with it. And yeah, it's hard work.
It is hard work. One thing that I learned, I did a crowd campaign for a short animation years and years ago, and we worked really hard to finally barely cross the finish line for our crowd campaign on Kickstarter. And then we had built this entire audience and then it was over. We didn't actually do another one. So there, you know, once you put in that hard work, the possibilities are endless. Tim, what is your favorite part about crowdfunding? You spend a lot of time in this space. Is there an element of it that really gets you excited, that you really love?
I mean, there's lots about it I like. I mean, I think that part of the appeal of crowdfunding is that it is taking away gatekeepers. You know, it's like a lot of the kind of digital transformations that we're seeing. You can become a citizen scientist through, you know, going online. You can become a journalist by publishing your own blog. And really that sense of taking ownership and control and sidestepping the gatekeepers, crowdfunding is just the kind of financial manifestation of that. And that's the thing that I like. It just liberates people to reimagine what they're doing, what they want to do, you know, fund dreams and ideas and inspiration. And that's terrific. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful freeing thing for us, and we should embrace it for all it's worth.
Amen to that. Tim, I couldn't agree more. So before we go, can you please leave us with a little bit of advice? Any kind of advice that you've learned from your career along the way that you found really helpful?
Well, I guess the best piece of advice for me is create your own future. Don't settle for other people putting you in a box. We have tremendous capacity to shape our own destinies, and you know, we have so many tools available to us now. So if you want to seize the opportunity, do so. Don't be constrained into a box of other people's making.
I'm going to take that advice. That is very, very good advice. And how lucky are we that you're one of our sector specialists?
It's a pleasure. It's an honor to work with you.
Well, I do want to highlight again about getting your book. People who are really interested in this topic can get your book. They can also sign up if they're in the Highlands and Islands to XpoNorth Sector Specialist Program and get to work with Tim. I want to do
Absolutely.
that. Very, very lucky to have you, Tim. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll collect some people's questions and do a little bit more of a specific part 2 where we can do a deep dive into this if you'd like.
Very happy to do that. Very happy to do that.
Thank you so much.
Great to speak to you, Jessica.
Bye.
All the way.